What's up, guys? Matt Moda here to talk to you about Thursday night football between the Commanders and the Packers. We got an absolutely electric Thursday night football game between these two teams. Very, very excited for this one. I'm going to have two player props for you guys to lock in for this game on Thursday, two plus money bangers. So if we go 1-1, we're at least making money on this one, and hopefully we are going 2-0. Before we get into Thursday night football, I just want to recap how week one went. Now, this is the entire week one, starting with the Cowboys Eagles last Thursday night football, the season opener, all the way until Monday night football with the Bears versus Vikings. And all in all, I'm pleased with how the week went. We were up 2.54 units in week one. We lost Dak Prescott, 2 passing touchdowns. That was a bummer on Thursday night because both the Cowboys scored 2 touchdowns, got to the Eagles 1 yard line twice, ended up running both of those touchdowns in. And then what really was a huge bummer was the David Njoku ladder. I really, really liked the matchup for David Njoku, and a lot of pass catchers got more work than I was expecting in this one, especially Harold Fannin Jr., the rookie tight end. The rookie tight end for the Browns. I did not expect him to get as much work as he did, which ended up killing my David Njoku prop. Also lost Evan Ingram, so did not go well with the tight end props. But Hurts, anytime tater. Josh Allen, anytime tater. Keenan Allen, 40-plus receiving yards. Romeo Doubs, 40-plus receiving yards. Josh Palmer was a sweat, but he cashed this out. And then Jordan Mason last night on Monday Night Football cashed it out. Again, all in all, very pleased with how week one went when you take everything into account. Up 2.54 units. That gives ourselves, on the entire year, 2.54 units. And we are up, we were up to about 44 units on the year last year, up 18% ROI last year. This year, going to give it a little bit of time before we talk about ROI. But all in all, good start to the year. As far as Thursday night football goes, what you see me using on the screen here is Props Madness. Very, very helpful NFL betting tool that you can actually use for WNBA and NBA as well. They're also going to work on an MLB product for next season. I put a link to them in the description of the video. You're going to see how I end up using Props Madness, but if you have any questions, just let me know. Play number one, we're going to go to the rushing yards prop, and we're going to go with Josh Jacobs, and we're taking him. I actually took him 80-plus rushing yards. Now, the main line has skyrocketed, so I'm recording this on Tuesday. Yesterday, he opened up at 73.5, steamed up to 78.5. I would still take it at 78.5. I took 80 plus, and I got that for plus money. I got that for about plus 125. You can probably find that for close to even money. I was able to get it at Bet365. So Line Shop, check the best available lines that you are able to get for this one. But we're looking at the rushing yards for Josh Jacobs. Let me refresh here, get everything back in order. So Josh Jacobs, so it's the 80 plus rushing yards prop. Now, if you look at him as a member of the Packers, which starts this game right here, admittedly does not go well with the over. He's only hit that in 7 of 19 games. To me, this is all about the projected workload for Josh Jacobs, and it's all about the matchup. So even though the hit rate is not what you look for, I'm still comfortable with this play for Josh Jacobs. Now, you look at last week, he only had 66 rushing yards. He had 19 carries, 3.5 yards per carry. You're going to look at that, and that's not going to look good. You got to look at the matchup. Now, the Lions, yes, they have a new defensive coordinator, but the Lions' defensive philosophy, and it's always been this way under Dan Campbell, is don't give up anything in the run, but they can be beat through the air. If you look at the Lions, consistently among the league leaders in terms of passing yards allowed, both last year and the year before, was still the case even before all the injuries to the Lions defense last year. Now, the Commanders, you look at their matchup last week, they looked like they had a phenomenal run defense. I don't really take anything away from that Giants game that the Commanders played last week. The Giants, basically a peewee football team, just an absolute joke. So yeah, the Commanders' run defense looked good. I am going off of a lot of data from last year, and I'm just using fantasy points, using them as a very nerdy data site that I absolutely love. The Commanders, they give up the 3rd most rushing yards per game last year. And keep in mind, this was a Commanders team that was winning most of their games. I mean, they won, 12 games? Last year, they still gave up 137 rushing yards per game. That was the 3rd most in the NFL. In terms of yards per carry, the 5th most yards per carry. A lot of stats show the Commanders not having a good run defense. One thing that I really like to look at is missed tackles. They missed tied for the fourth most tackles in the NFL. This is very important because Josh Jacobs is always among the top in terms of missed tackle rate in the NFL. Josh Jacobs does a really, really good job breaking tackles, forcing missed tackles. Another stat that I like to look at is called stuff rate. That looks at like the percentage of plays that are quote unquote considered stuff. Now there's a metric for it. If you really care enough, it doesn't result in a first down or touchdown. On first down, goes for less than 4 yards. On any other down, goes for less than 3 yards. The Commanders, 7th worst stuff rate in the entire NFL. Another stat that I like to look at, this is called adjusted yards before contact. Basically, it takes out QB scrambles. It takes out designed running plays for the quarterback. It takes out wide receiver end arounds. It just looks at standard running plays. How far does the running back go before he is contacted? Guess who literally was the worst in the entire NFL last year? Your Washington Commanders. Same defensive coordinator. Mostly the same defensive line and linebacking core as well. They did not make a ton of moves on their defense last year. So this is a Commanders run defense that can be had. And then you look at the Packers. Yes, Jordan Love looked phenomenal last week, but last year, the Packers had literally the highest neutral rush rate in the entire NFL. Now, neutral rush rate, this is important. It takes out the fourth quarter if you're down, when you mostly need to pass, or if you're winning. It takes out obvious passing downs on third down. It just looks at like standard plays where you could either run or pass. Look who had the highest neutral rush rate in the entire NFL. That would be the Green Bay Packers. They were the only team that rushed the ball more than 50% of the time. The Eagles, who everybody remembers being this crazy heavy run team, 48% neutral run rate, which is still really high. That was on the entire year. Even if you take out the Malik Willis weeks and you just look at like weeks 10 through 18, so like the latter half of the year, you look at that, the neutral run rate for the Packers, it went up. It went from 50.9%, so basically 51%, to 54.6%. So they ran the ball more as the season went on. So I am not necessarily taking anything away from either of these situations in week 1 where Jacobs did not hit it and the Commanders did a good job. The Packers love to be on schedule is the way that I would like to define it. And we all know that obviously Jacobs is going to get the majority of the work. I mean, he got 88% of the offensive snaps last week. He got like 90% of the running back carries. So we know he's going to get the work. So Josh Jacobs, 80 plus rushing yards is play number 1. Again, I was able to get it at plus 125 at BetMGM. You can still get it for Bet365. You can still get it for even money. Just line shop and see where you can get the best price on 80 plus. All right, so that's play number 1. Play number 2, we're going to the other side of the field. We're going with the Commanders, and we're going with Austin Ekeler, and we're taking him 25 plus receiving yards. Now, this is the opposite of the Josh Jacobs play where I got the better of the number. In this case, I actually got the worse of the number. So I took Austin Ekeler 25 plus receiving yards, got it at at plus 100, exactly even money. You can get that at a better price now. I am only tracking it at the number that I sent it out at. That's only fair, both good and bad. But I really like the play, and I'm not scared off by the fact that the market moved against me, and I'm not scared off of the fact that Austin Ekeler was quote-unquote limited in the fake practice report from Monday's practice. It was an estimated walkthrough. He was listed as he would have been a limited participant with a shoulder injury. I don't take much of that. His snap count at 47% is kind of what you're looking for Austin Ekeler, and the fact that he was limited and not practicing, I think is a good sign for his availability. And you look at Austin Ekeler, so looking at him as a member of the Commanders, obviously any other situation when he was in the Chargers doesn't help. 10 of 16 games, he has gone over this number, the 25 number, and it's still the case. You look at 24.5, it's 9 of 16. One time he landed on 22, which would have hit his main line of 20.5, but not hit the pumped up prop. I'm still comfortable going with the pumped up prop. One game that I do want to mention, this game here against the Panthers, he did not go over, but Jayden Daniels got hurt at the literally on the first drive of this game against the Panthers. So you take that game out, it's actually 9 of 15 games, which looks pretty good, and averaging 30 yards per game as a member of the Commanders. And then that even includes this game where he only had 3 receiving yards. So you take that game out and things look a lot better for Austin Ekeler. He cashed this over last week on 3 receptions for 31 yards. To me, there's a couple things that I like. He's basically splitting work with Bill Krosky-Merritt. Bill is going to take a lot of the just pure running downs. Ekeler is going to be on the field for passing work. That's kind of how the split is going to go. That's how it worked last week against the Giants. And I really, really like this matchup against the Packers. Last year, the Packers allowed the highest percentage of targets go to the running back position. Generally, the Packers were a fantastic matchup for running back receiving props. This was the case last year. It's all about their style of defense. They play deep coverages. They don't let themselves get beat deep, and they trust their pass rush to get home. So it leaves a lot of dump off opportunities to the running back position. This year, granted, it's only been one game, so take that with a grain of salt. In terms of percentage of targets to the running back, guess who was once again number one, all the way up at 35%. Now, this number is obviously going to come down. They're not going to end the year with 35% of the targets going to the running back, but it was nice to see that in week 1, the trends we saw from last year continued. Now, the Lions, they are generally a team that does utilize the running back position in the receiving game, but both Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery hit their receiving yardage prop over last week against the Packers. Now, the one negative that people are going to say is that Gibbs needed 10 targets and 10 receptions to only get 30 yards. That's 100% true, but the reason why I like the yards for Austin Ekeler, it's just a better hit rate, 25 plus, 9 of 15 games. You look at the receptions, it's a super gross minus 130 odds for 2.5, or you go for 3.5, and he seems to hover around that 3 reception number, aside from the outlier 8 that he had against the Eagles last year. So this receiving yards I just think is a little bit safer. And the reason why Jahmyr Gibbs had so many receptions but for so little yards is the Lions really couldn't block the Packers, which still might be the case with the Commanders, which would just help the receiving work for Austin Ekeler. But the biggest thing here is that the Lions could not stress the Packers deep. If you watch that game, everything was short. They didn't even bother anything deep. That's not going to be the case against the Commanders. The Commanders are a very feast or famine passing game where it's a lot of deep stuff and it's a lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage. They don't do a ton in the intermediate. That's fine. The Commanders are going to stress the Packers deep, which is going to leave more space for Austin Ekeler in the receiving game. And I do think that this game against the Eagles is important because they kind of play a similar style of defense. The Eagles also don't let themselves get beat deep. They keep everything in front of them, and they don't really blitz that much. Now, maybe the Packers will be more creative on defense with Micah Parsons, but it was a great matchup last year. Through week 1, it was a good matchup this year. So I think it's going to be a good matchup again for Austin Ekeler. Again, 25 plus receiving yards is the play that I got. And that's all we got. So 2 official bangers for you guys to lock in. It's Josh Jacobs, 80 plus rushing yards. I was able to get him at plus 125. You could still get him for around even money at the time of this recording, which is Tuesday afternoon. Austin Ekeler, 25 plus receiving yards, which is the opposite. I got it at even money. Last I checked, you could get it at plus 130. So you are able to get a pretty big price difference than what I got. Hopefully it evens out, and hopefully we go 2-0. That's all we got. Thank you guys for watching. Check out Props Madness. I put a link to them in the description of the video. I send all my plays out through my Tails account, so check out my Tails account. I put a link to them in the description of the video as well. But for this video, that is all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.